on, guys? So I'm going to make a video about the 5 reasons I sold my 2007 Yamaha R1 for a 2006 GSX-R 750. So just to give you some backstory, I first started out riding on the new body style Ninja 250. I forgot what year it was. I think it was I don't know, 2010 maybe. I don't recall. It was the new body style. So I kept that bike for 2 years. And then I upgraded to a 2005 GSX-R 600. And then I went to the 2007 Yamaha R1. And I currently own the 2006 GSX-R 750. So a couple of reasons why I went back to a smaller CC bike. I love the R1. Since I first started riding bikes, I wanted the R1. I think it looked awesome. But I really didn't look into some of the quirks of owning an R1 till I actually owned it, and some of the things about that bike I didn't really like. So here are 5 reasons why I went from the 2007 Yamaha R1 to a 2006 GSX-R 750. So the first one's gearing and speed. So on the 2006 GSX-R 750, I can easily go through some of the first few gears without, I guess, going to jail. Obviously you can still get up to high speeds, but you can go through the gears a lot easier than on a Yamaha R1. In a Yamaha R1, I think you can even reach like 100 miles an hour in first gear. So in the second gear, you're easily going over 100. In a GSX-R, you can wind out those gears a little bit because it's a smaller CC bike and you get into less trouble. So the second reason, which I didn't know this was a quirk of the R1 until I got it, is the running temperature. So if it's, over 90 degrees or outside, even, high 80s, the Yamaha R1 is going to run warm, at least the year I had. So you got to take into consideration that year the pipes run under the seat. So all the heat, obviously there's shielding under the seat, but you can still feel the heat coming from the exhaust because it runs right under you. In my Yamaha R1, I even replaced the coolant with engine ice, and it ran a little cooler. I think the fan kicked in a little later, but it still was a very warm bike. All the panels and everything, all the metal pieces like the engine cover and stuff, that was super hot. So even if you had on like pretty thick jeans and you touched any of that, you could easily get burned. I got burnt on my leg a few times by I guess putting my leg in the wrong spot, while riding. The GSX-R 750, honestly, the fan only turns on really warm days. If it's like 80s or something, I guess if I'm in stop and go traffic, the fan's gonna turn on. But just quick, red lights or anything like that, the fan won't kick on. The bike runs a lot cooler than the Yamaha R1. Another big thing is comfort. The Yamaha R1 has a more aggressive riding position. So obviously if you're, flying down a highway, you don't feel, I guess, the weight on your wrist as much. But if you're going through traffic or, slower speeds, you're going to feel your weight on your wrist because you're leaning forward more on a Yamaha R1. I think the Gixxer, the seat's a little lower, and, the riding position, hurts your wrist a little less, I mean. Obviously, I could get different, bar ends, switch up the riding position of Yamaha R1 a little bit, but, stock, it's going to hurt your wrist on long rides. So another big thing why I switched to a smaller CC bike, the Gixxer 750, is the weight and size. The Yamaha R1 was awesome, flying down a highway, in 6th gear, you could, easily, you're doing 80 miles an hour and the engine is, running at very low RPMs. On the Gixxer, obviously, I like cruising speeds, those RPMs are a lot higher. But the reason I switched is the weight and size. So when you're flying, on like winding back roads or anything like that, I think the GSX-R is a lot more fun. You can toss it into corners a lot easier. You can accelerate out of corners, a lot easier. The Yamaha R1 is just a bigger bike. I don't know what the weight difference on them is, but the R1 just feels like a bigger bike. It is a bigger bike, obviously. The riding position is a little higher. It's just the wheelbase is longer. It's a bigger bike, and it's a little bit harder to I guess take into turns and stuff. So I don't know. I think the GSX-R is just more rewarding and easier to ride down side roads. And another big reason why I switched, the fifth reason, is power. Obviously, the R1 has over 20 horsepower on the GSX-R 750. Obviously the R1 is a quicker bike, but I think the power is a lot more usable in the GSX-R 750. Yeah, like I mentioned, one of my first reasons, you can wind out that power and you'll get into less trouble. The power is a lot more usable. It's a smaller bike, lower center gravity, and yeah, I think the power is a lot more usable on a GSX-R 750. Obviously, the R1, if you're on a track or if you're on an open highway, the power is awesome. That's the one thing I miss about the R1 is when you're on an open highway, the R1 was an awesome machine. But I think on an average day, I think the GSX-R 750, the power is a lot more usable and a lot more fun to use. And yeah, these are my 5 reasons why I switched from a liter bike to a 750. All right, thanks a lot, guys.